Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Moddriven. You know, for a while, I've been trying to solve the mystery of the tires on my used Honda Civic. Bought this thing a few months ago and noticed, today actually, that the tires aren't all the same. I mean, I had noticed that before, but I did not realize that 3 of them are the same and 1 of them is not. I've been trying to figure out how old they are. You know, I did a little depth gauge test recently and all of the tires are still good, but I really didn't know the age of them or now why they've actually changed, it appears, 1 out. So what I've got, we're going to take a look. I also learned something new today, actually, thanks to M. Jones, a longtime subscriber on the channel, and I really appreciate the info. Thank you. And that has to do with the age of the tires. We're going to get to that in a minute. I did not know this. But anyway, I've got 3 Goodyear tires on the car and 1 Bridgestone. Apparently they must have had a problem with 1. I'm guessing they either had a blowout or maybe had a nail or something in a tire, so they just replaced it. The only reason I could see you would have different tires on the car. Now, I've tried to figure out how old they are, and as I mentioned, M. Jones pointed out to me, and I can't believe I didn't know this, that they do say on the tires, if you look through all the verbiage and stuff that's around your tire, there's all kinds of things on here, all kinds of info, there is a little area that should look like it's kind of highlighted. If you see this, it's kind of in a little bubble, if you will, a little circle, and it has a date. Now, the date on here is 02/20. Now, let me tell you, first of all, that does not mean February of 2020. That means the 2nd week of the year in 2020. In other words, the first number is a week, not a month. So I went around, I looked at each tire, and what I discovered, looking at the driver's side first, the one that we just looked at, it says 220 on it, and I'm looking because I've written all these things down. I can't remember all this stuff. But I'm looking, it says 220 as I showed you. Now that means that tire was made in January of 2020. Going around to the back, and I'll show you one more. I'm not going to show you every one. I'm going to show you this because they're actually different tires. Right down here, let's see, is the same kind of notation. This, and I hope you guys can see it, says 3820. Now, that does not mean the 38th month. Of course, we don't have 38 months, right? Again, going by the week, that was September of 2020. Going to the other side, the passenger side front, we have 0920, that's February of 2020. And then the rear is 4520, that would be November of 2020. So you can see I have a spattering of dates. And now, kind of thinking as I'm making this video, the car was manufactured on 5/1. I'll show you that in case you didn't know where this is. There is a placard inside your door. It's got your VIN number and your tire pressures and all that stuff. And right up here in the corner, oh, and your weights and all kinds of things, you'll notice it says 5/20. That is the date of manufacture of the car. So this car was built in May of 2020. So going back to the tires, my theory of them just putting on 1 tire is kind of blown. For you see, the dates I gave you for the age of the tires, you've got one that's January. Well, that's before the manufacture of the car, right? You've got another that's February. That is, again, the manufacturer before the tires were manufactured, before the car was built. So those 2 could be original. Then we have a September and November on the rears. Obviously, those are both tires that were made after the car was built. So of course, they cannot be the original tires. So I guess to adjust my theory a little bit about the car is that at least 2 of the tires have been replaced. Now, again, I did a depth gauge test. If you haven't seen that video, there's a real simple device you can get. I'll link it down below if I can remember. but a real simple device you can get to check your tires to see if they need to be replaced. And all of them are fine, so I'm not really so concerned about that, but it's just interesting to me that a car that only has a little over 16,000 miles on it now had already had the tires replaced. To me, that means they either hit something or had nails in the tires, something like that, which I'm guessing is probably the case. The tires couldn't be repaired, or the previous owner just didn't want to repair them and went ahead and replaced the tire altogether. Now, there is one other thing to consider beyond tread depth, and Mark also pointed this out to me, and that is the age. I was aware of this already, but you should also look at the age of the tires because they're rubber, right? And after a period of time, they are going to break down. Sooner or later, you have to replace the tires based upon age, not just wear. And that seems to be somewhere, 6 years or so, somewhere in that range, 5 to, I would say, 7 years. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, my parents, this is when I was a wee tot, actually had a car that had sat for a long time. It sat outside. It was like a brand new car. Very low mileage, excellent condition, but it sat on gravel in contact with moisture outside. And you know, rubber has a moisture content, and parking it on pavement or concrete like this will draw that moisture out, and eventually it's going to dry out the rubber. Obviously, we all know it causes flat spots. Generally, those will even out after you drive the car for a while. That's why you might feel like your car's going flop, flop, flop as you're driving it. If you've let it sit for a while, you're probably just evening out the flat spot. But this car had sat for quite a long time outside in gravel, I think maybe a couple of years. And when they were driving the car home, one of the tires blew. I mean, it just, and you could see, and I remember this even from being a little kid, that you could see how that tire had just rotted. So you don't want that to happen. I would pay attention to the age as well, and now you have a way to do that. Just check for that little insignia on your tires so that you know how old they are and whether or not you should replace them. Again, about 6 years or so, I think, is probably a good gauge to use when you're looking to replace your tires. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here, kind of run through that with you guys. I learned something today from Mark. Again, thank you for that. And now I have an idea of where I stand with the tires on my car and really when I need to start looking to replace them. Leave a comment. Let me know. Were you aware of this date code on the tire? Or is it just me? I might be a little embarrassed. I'd be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.